say nothing about the inexcusable attacks against the edifice of multilateralism and international law, and the attacks against the value version should come from this council, which should assume fully its responsibilities and cease to look away. Too many lives have been sacrificed. Too many principles have been trampled on. Rwanda is continuing in its terror and plunder and contempt for the United Nations and the resolutions of this council. Impunity cannot continue without striking a fatal blow to the credibility of the United Nations. The time for hesitation has passed. Time now is for action. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kwiga Wagner for her statement. The representative of Rwanda has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give him the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to clearly say that this crisis is a DRC matter. That's why we have the Rwanda process and the Nairobi process. DRC has had endemic security, political, and governance challenges for decades. These matters are not matters of today. So it cannot pretend that an external party will be responsible for putting its house in order. On the issue of territorial integrity, we agree DRC's territorial integrity matters, but Rwanda's territorial integrity is also very important. For the last 3 decades, instability, attacks, infiltration, sharing, and loss of life due to armed groups' activities on Rwandan territory have come singularly from across the border from DRC. Why is DRC preserving FDLR, making it a strategic ally? DRC must disengage, neutralize, and completely expel FDLR from its territory so that we can have peace. The minister earlier mentioned on the issue of the deployment of the Rwandan liaison officers to the enhanced verification mechanism in Goma. The reason the 3 Rwandan liaison officers have not deployed is because DRC clearly refused to guarantee their safety and security. So as soon as DRC guarantees their security, they will be able to cross to Goma and be part of the enhanced verification mechanism. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Rwanda for his statement. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Kwiga Wagner, who asked for a further statement.
Thank you once again, Mr. President. I'm going to be brief. I take note, and I think the entire council has taken note of the fact that Rwanda has put into question the credibility of a group of experts, the credibility of a special representative of the Secretary General, and the credibility of yourselves, members of the Security Council, who denounced the presence of the Rwandan armed forces on the sovereign territory of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's up to you to draw the consequence of this contempt and lack of respect. I want to clarify something regarding the reinforced ad hoc verification mechanism. Rwanda received a note verbal on the eve of the establishment of this mechanism, guaranteeing the security of all its elements that will be deployed there. However, they're still trying to find their way to Goma, 82 days since that mechanism was established. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Kaikwamba Wagner for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. I now invite council members to informal consultations to continue our discussion on the subject. The meeting is adjourned.
There's definitely a higher sense of urgency. We are unfortunately seeing the number of heat-related deaths go the wrong direction every summer. For me, if I could just get that number to stop, that would be a win. And then obviously if we can start decreasing it, then that's really what we want to see. But it's more than what I'm doing. It's more than the planting trees and all of that. We need to find housing. We need to find shelter. We need to meet people where they're at and provide resources to them so that they are not at the high risk of heat-related incident. What we're telling people as we're out here is if you start getting dizzy, if you start feeling faint, it's actually if your heart rate starts to go down and you're just really starting to lose ability to make decisions, you need to get inside. It's about knowing those couple of triggers, letting them know that the libraries and churches act as cooling centers and respite centers for them to get inside and to drink some water because it gets dangerous really fast.
Does anybody need water? Absolutely shocking is a good word for it. We are headed into Arizona heat season, so we know what's coming, and these people are exposed and out in the heat all day long, and it's going to hit 120.
There's unfortunately been a governance gap for heat. Residents know who to go to pick up their trash. They know who to call if there's a fire in their neighborhood. They know who to go if they're having problems with the public infrastructure, the public works. But what if you feel like your neighborhood is too hot? What if you're concerned about the number of people who are getting sick or dying from heat? Who's the problem owner? We're really proud here in the city of Phoenix to have the first publicly funded local government office focused on extreme heat. There's no one here in Phoenix for whom heat isn't some sort of inconvenience. Maybe the seatbelt buckle is too hot. Maybe we pay a little bit more than we'd like on our air conditioning bills. But for some people, heat's an inconvenience. I would absolutely characterize the situation for a portion of the population as an emergency. People are going to the hospital. People are dying. People are calling 911 because of their experience with heat. Unfortunately, we've seen rising public health impacts from heat here in our region. Last summer, we just set another record of heat-associated deaths. 425 people died prematurely because of heat in our county. People experiencing homelessness have approximately a 300 to 400 times higher rate of heat-associated death than the rest of the population. So the best investments we can make to move the needle there are in affordable housing, in shelter. We think that the heat risks in the community are held by a relatively small segment of the population, which is good news, in that it means we can be very focused. I think what we can do is provide guidance, direction, energy, and evaluation to ensure that we remain focused on this really important challenge.
I think the water situation, whether it's a function of having too much water in some places or too little water in other places, is absolutely the result of climate change. After World War II, when the advent of air conditioning came into play, we really became a destination for people to relocate and move their businesses and move their lifestyles and come to the desert. The problem then we encountered post-World War II was we still had very healthy agriculture going on locally, and then we had a growing, burgeoning population that really started to move in. And people gradually change their behavior in terms of how they think about water and how they use water. And so we've seen that as a tangible result in that We've seen demand for water in the Phoenix metro area go down about 30% in the last 30 years, and that trend continues to go downward.
Phoenix was actually very carefully chosen by ancient Native Americans who first came here and established a really impressive and extensive agricultural civilization. And in fact, what they figured out is that they could divert the flows of the Salt and Verde rivers into an intricate system of canals that we still use to this day. Ancient people understood this. They understood that you live where the water flows to, not necessarily where the water comes from. Our water originates as snowpack high up in the mountains. Living down
Hello guys, are you comfortable with French, right? Yeah. She wants to also do it in English. Okay. Bonjour à tous. Nous venons du Conseil de sécurité. Nous venons de terminer la réunion publique du Conseil de sécurité. Et pour le moment, Son Excellence Madame Thérèse Kayikwamba Wagner, ministre d'État, ministre des Affaires étrangères, coopération internationale et francophonie de la République démocratique du Congo, est prête à faire une présentation à la presse à l'issue de laquelle nous allons ouvrir la parole pour ceux qui désireraient prendre la parole pour poser des questions. Alors, je vais inviter Madame la ministre.
Marqué par une crise sécuritaire d'une gravité alarmante à l'est de notre pays. Depuis des années, les populations congolaises subissent les effets dévastateurs d'une agression planifiée et systématique menée par les forces de défense du Rwanda, RDF, et leur supplétif M23. En violation flagrante des principes du droit international et des engagements pris dans le cadre du processus de paix. Depuis le 6 janvier 2025, ces forces illégales ont intensifié leurs attaques, s'emparant de localités stratégiques telles que Katale, Louchébéré, Massissi Centre, provoquant le déplacement de millions de civils, détruisant des infrastructures vitales et commettant des violations massives de droits de l'homme. Ces actes ne sont pas seulement des attaques contre le peuple congolais, mais aussi contre les principes fondamentaux qui régissent la coexistence pacifique entre les nations. Face à cette situation tragique, la République démocratique du Congo rappelle la responsabilité historique du Conseil de sécurité des Nations unies, garant de la paix et de la sécurité internationale. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de rester saisi de la question, mais d'agir avec fermeté et diligence pour répondre aux aspirations légitimes de notre peuple à la paix et à la justice. Nous demandons à ce Conseil de prendre des mesures concrètes et immédiates, à savoir la cessation immédiate des hostilités et le retrait total et inconditionnel des troupes rwandaises du territoire congolais pour établir la souveraineté de la République démocratique du Congo sur ces terres. L'imposition de sanctions ciblées contre les responsables militaires et politiques rwandais identifiés comme les instigateurs de cette agression. Un embargo strict sur les exportations de ressources naturelles en provenance du Rwanda afin de couper les financements illicites des groupes armés. Et la révocation du Rwanda comme pays contributeur de troupes aux missions de paix des Nations Unies en raison de ses violations flagrantes du droit international humanitaire et de ses attaques systématiques et ciblées contre les soldats de la paix des Nations Unies et de la SADC. La RDC reste fermement engagée dans les processus de paix, notamment ceux de Luanda et de Nairobi, sous les auspices des facilitateurs africains. Cependant, nous rejetons toute tentative de légitimer des acteurs non étatiques, comme le M23, à travers les négociations interétatiques du processus de Luanda. Aujourd'hui, la communauté internationale a une occasion et une responsabilité unique de prouver son engagement en faveur de la justice et de la paix. Chaque jour d'inaction renforce les agresseurs rwandais et perpétue les souffrances de millions d'innocents de Congolais. Le peuple congolais ne cédera ni à la résignation ni à l'injustice. Nous continuerons à défendre nos droits, protéger notre territoire et exiger le respect de notre souveraineté. L'histoire jugera de la réponse que le monde aura donnée à cet appel. Nous réitérons notre confiance en la capacité du Conseil de sécurité et des partenaires internationaux à agir avec courage et détermination pour mettre fin à cette tragédie humaine et rétablir la paix dans notre pays et dans les régions des Grands Lacs. Je vous remercie.
Madam Foreign Minister, Sherman Rice, please, South African Broadcasting. President Felix Tshisekedi in the General Assembly in September 2023 called on MONUSCO to start a phased withdrawal from the DRC. Was that call a mistake, given the escalation we are seeing now? And what is your message to troop contributing countries, South Africa, Malawi, Uruguay, that have lost troops in this fight, given the escalation we're seeing?
The withdrawal of MONUSCO was sequential, and it was not a mistake, because in the areas where MONUSCO withdrew, we have seen sustained peace, we have seen progress, and we have seen stability. The challenge that we find ourselves in right now is in areas where MONUSCO is still present. So this has nothing to do with MONUSCO's presence. This has something to do with the fact that a neighboring country, Rwanda, has been permitted by the international community, by its donors, by its partners, to wreak havoc in the DRC, in particular in North Kivu, even in the presence of United Nations peacekeeping troops, with one of the most robust mandates of the United Nations. What I say to troop contributing countries, and this is very important because Rwanda itself is one of the UN's largest troop contributing countries, is that this crisis is not a DRC specific crisis. This should compel all troop contributing countries to engage in a robust conversations with the United Nations, with DPKO, on what it means to be a troop contributing countries. How is it permissible that a country, one of the largest troop contributing countries, gets away with killing peacekeepers, as peacekeepers from South Africa, Malawi, Uruguay were killed in less than 24 hours. This is unacceptable. It is a violation of all the principles of the United Nations. And I think that every self-respecting truth-contributing country, such as South Africa, has also a responsibility, but also a right to have an answer from the UN as to what standards it applies when it engages in partnerships and how it holds partners accountable to respect international law. Thank you.
Madam Foreign Minister, my name is Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English News Channel. Two questions. One is, how confident are you that your forces can hold off the M23 and Rwandan forces that are now less than 10 kilometers outside of Goma? How confident are you that that you can hold Goma, number one? And number two is, you called for targeted sanctions against Rwandan officials. Are you disappointed that that has not happened up until now, and that here we are at this stage still calling for that?
To answer first the question of our assessment of the security situation, it is a tense situation. We are following and monitoring it closely. We are grateful for the support and the resilience of our own armed forces, but also the presence and the support of MONUSCO troops as well as SADC troops. I will not delve into speculations. I am confident in the resolve of all involved forces to uphold the territorial integrity of the DRC, and most importantly, to protect the civilian lives which are at stake right now. Now, when it comes to sanctions and to the absence thereof, more importantly, of course we're disappointed. Of course we're disappointed because as an African country, how often is it that we have to listen to the lessons, that we have to listen to what we ought to be doing, the rules we are to be following, and at the same time find ourselves in this edifice and see that the rules that we all consider to be holy, to be precious, are being violated with such impunity. So there is, of course, a level of frustration, but frustration does not mean resignation, and we will always remind the international community of its responsibility, in particular the United Nations Security Council. We will never, ever tire of reminding it of that, reminding it of its responsibility, but also its failure to act when it is the case. And for the past 3 years, the Security Council has failed the Congolese people. It has not acted, it has not held the people accountable who are directly linked to the chain of commands linking the RDF and the M23, chain of commands that lead all the way back to Kigali.
One quick follow-up, if you may, Madam Foreign Minister. Are you also disappointed in the Secretary General that he has not been more forceful in calling out Rwanda specifically?
There have been in the past, I want to say 72 hours, 2 statements from the Secretary General. We welcome these statements. They were clear, they were robust, and they reflected also the urgency of the situation. However, we are also cognizant that since the renewed insurgency of the M23 started in 2022, the DRC raised the alarm. For the past 3 years, we have been raising the alarm. And yes, we have taken note of how long it took. The different partners that we are working with, the different partners that we believe share our ideals, we are cognizant of the fact that it took them a very long time. It's not just an issue of the Secretary General. When you look at the Security Council, we still have permanent members that have yet to utter the word Rwanda. And we have some that have done so for the first time a month ago. This is work in progress. And as I said before, we will not tire of defending our values, our people, but also of holding everyone accountable towards the responsibility that they have as member states of the United Nations or as public servants of the United Nations. Thank you.
Minister Wagner, if I may as well, the Rwandan ambassador has said that the alliance that the FARDC has with Sami DRC, Burundian groups and others, including the FDLR that it recognizes as a genocidal force, constitutes a major security threat to Rwanda. How do you respond to that, and in particular the accusation that the FARDC is working with the FDLR?
I think we ought to be looking at the situation on the ground right now. The situation on the ground in the city, such as large as Goma, with millions of civilians, is being taken in an onslaught by the Rwandan Defense Forces and the M23. Granted, every country is allowed to feel preoccupied by its safety. This is a legitimate concern, and I am not questioning it, but we have to have a clear distinction between the concern and the reality. And the reality right now is, yes, maybe Rwanda is concerned with its territorial integrity, but the DRC is the country whose territorial integrity is being violated by Rwanda. It is the DRC and the Congolese people who are being killed right now. So yes, their fears are legitimate, but they are not real. They have not materialized. We are the ones being killed. We are the ones being violated, and Rwanda is responsible for that. And this is just a very shameful way to respond or to shy away from responding to such a responsibility that Rwanda bears. But we take note of that, and again, history will never forget and probably not forgive. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
also below it.
There is hope. There is a chance. We can make a difference, and all we have to do is stick together.
The ocean is our future, our responsibility. Let us come together to live up to that responsibility and reawaken our commitment to the ocean.
We cause the problems. We are the solution.
We live on a blue planet. It's time we act like it.
Je m'appelle René Cayenne, moi dans la classe terminale, dans le lycée national de Pétionville. Vraiment triste, nous-mêmes élèves en classe terminale qui subir une épreuve et côté que nous pas comme si suivre gros gens que nous avons suivre. Comment examen ça va faire qui sent qu'on ça va mettre sur feuille examen ça pendant que pas jamais suivre un cours.
Enormous violence has forced them out of school. But when the Ministry of Education and UNICEF and local organizations come together, it is possible to offer a counter-positive force.
L'État paysan prend une décision côté que les mettez un cours de rattrapage dans chaque école qui fait le samedi et le dimanche. Les professeurs travaillent assez bien, nous comprenons bien que nous ne pouvons pas finir rattraper tout vraiment, mais nous avons essayé de rattraper un peu dans le temps que nous avons perdu, dans le temps que nous avons fait par l'école. Si pas de coup de rattrapage, je pense que oui, nous avons un examen, nous avons composé, nous avons réussi, mais il y a des choses nous avons été médiocres sur eux, nous pas connaître. Pendant que nous avons une opportunité pour nous retourner à l'école, on s'est tout nous qui pas une opportunité ça. À qui cause ça, il y a ces problèmes d'insécurité pour les pays à subir. Ça qui arrive tous ces problèmes de déplacement. Et ça qui arrive tout, malheureusement, c'est pas un qui pas assez moyen pour ça.
I've always wanted to save the world. It sounds silly, but yes. But I did not think that architecture could be one of the ways that I could do it.
I got into the field with the idea of being a kind of Indiana Jones and just kind of, going into all these really exciting sites. So that was a very naive, immature approach to what heritage might actually be.